And I gave the book to Susan, and Susan immediately said in her formal voice to go to the reference desk with Gabrielle. I didn't know Gabrielle all that much, but I was interested in that she had been harassed. And I did ask her, Gabrielle, were you harassed? And she said, yes, and I'll tell you what happened to me, because you two are very young and you could get the same thing. This, let's say, older man came well-dressed, and I helped him. He needed experience, and really was such a normal-looking middle-aged patron who came frequently to the library. I know that he had a lot of money, always gave it to the library, and I helped him even more. But one day he invited me to go to a gala with him in a limo, and I said no. He didn't accept that answer going further, offering me to take me on a cruise. The first time she brought up the questions of this problem about this patron, a smiling Susan answered she wouldn't have any problem confronting this patron. And the second time, unsmiling, Susan brusquely told her she'd have to handle this on her own, and Gabrielle told her mother, and she, with Mary, went to, yes, alert Taylor, and then she went to report this to the police. And so I was very ready to meet any harasser also. But the only harasser came from this young teenager who evidently wanted to take me out. Alright, when I got home that evening, I didn't say anything to Chris, but I did have a good email from my brother in Kabul, and my parents were very happy. They were always calling me on my cell phone too, and Mama and Daddy, they call too often. I get annoyed at times because they treat me like a child. And then feeling alone, I called Chris again to come up to New Pastures, and he said he just couldn't because he was so busy with Carnevale. And I did ask him if I was busy with a project too, French and Indian War. Oh, that happened in 1812. No, Chris. That was when the British attacked Washington. He knew nothing about the French and Indian War. Maybe I'm crazy. I thought after we had said our I love you, to get involved with a horrible war instead of a happy carnivale, to get involved with a magnificent Victorian mansion and a young man in a painted painting. Sweet William, for it was him I saw as I fell asleep. Then the next day, well, it was really day 3, I met Sinclair, Mary Sin. He came to the library dressed in a blue uniform of the Union Army. I don't know, but maybe he had gone to Pea Ridge again. Mary and I had been in the library, yes, and that's when Sinclair came, and Mary introduced me. Here's my Sinclair, Camilla. And he said, Sin, please. Not Sin, Sinclair. All right? I don't want, not enough. Okay, this is what he said. Sinclair, he quickly corrected, giving me a good smile. He had a good face, too, broad, tan skin, and not at all wrinkled. And he was so pleased to meet me that Mary likes me so very much. He had a fainting hurt. She doesn't me. I do so. She put an arm around him. Not enough to marry, so you'll have to introduce me by my legal name. I don't want to become a widow. You're always going off to war, putting yourself in harm. I always come back. And so he left with a good smile for both of us. And now, late in the evening, at my one room with a kitchen, and my two cats who greet me with loving meows, and of course my mother on the telephone. She's a foreign language teacher who couldn't get her daughter to speak a buonissimo Italiano. Just couldn't take it. Loves Keats and English poetry too much. Alright, he can't come up, Chris from Brooklyn. Too busy getting the restaurant ready for a carnivale. The next day, I meet Flower Fiore, doing research on the French and Indian War, becoming the expert on it I was perceived to be. I even sent for a DVD documentary film on Fort Ticonderoga, and I learned that before it was Fort Carillon, and I was imagining how it must have looked then. Yes, the forest primeval before it was even defrosted. But all of this battles and man's inhumanity man wasn't doing my psyche any good. That's why I got feelings of sadness and hopeless a bit too often lately. Can't take it. This present reading of carnage, of cannibalism even. I needed something of goodness in the human race, of kindness, something, I always go back to Keats, a thing of beauty. And it did come in the person of Flower Fiore. Keats again. I needed him so much. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. And suddenly it did come. A young woman beauty. She was a light-skinned, black, Afro-American girl. She came in and she had a book in hand. Mary saw her, got up and embraced her. Oh, and she said, Flower, you got the book you wanted on Roy Campanella. Very good. Okay, we were introduced, and Flower said, Piacere di conoscerla, signorina Camilla. Anch'io, I said. I knew that Italian. And I even suggested that we call each other tu and not lei. So we talked and talked, and she said that she had been to Italy, to San Cesario, with her mother, Teresa Fiore, and she said, one day I'm going to go back to Italy to visit all of Italy, Rome and old Florence. And then she said, and then I told her I want to go back too, Flower. And I showed her a picture of me when I was in Venice. When I was in Venice, oh, she wanted to go there, and we decided that one day we would go together. And Mary said she would want to go too, because she wanted to hear Italians call her Bella, Bella. After this thing of beauty, or this person of beauty left, I had an unpleasant episode. This woman came in and she wanted to get on the computer, and I immediately, and I had to tell her, please wait, and she wouldn't, and she said, she called me a bitch, and this is a lousy library, and it needs more computers. And then an elderly woman came up to me and she said, how come we have no elevators? And then in just a few minutes, Susan called a meeting. And she discussed the problems of the library. And Catherine Van Velt was there. And Susan did bring up this problem of to build the so necessary elevators. She said, KBV, maybe it's time that you, who has sole control of the KBV money, can give us the necessary funds to build the elevators. You know, all the members of trustees are with me, and the seniors need it. Oh, could we? All right. Then this is what Catherine Van Velt said to Susan and everybody else at the meeting. No, I'm not giving any money. Not when I hear about ungrateful, lazy, fat-crazed patrons who don't realize that climbing stairs is good for them. The patrons of my grandparents' days never complained. They were grateful for this public library that gave them what they couldn't afford. Free books! And they didn't mind having to climb stairs to get to them. What was good for once is good for now. I will not give you 1 cent as long as I'm alive. There will never be an elevator in the New Pastures Public Library. She got up, stumbled toward the door, and she turned, and this is what she said, I am the board of trustees of this library that my ancestors built. That evening I called Chris, and we talked. But this I had to say to Chris that happened with KBV. It had to do with Marcia. She's the head teacher with the children. And she ran after her, and she said, KBV, you know, I asked you about this problem that some of the children are very rowdy. We need a security guard in the children's room all the time, said Marcia. It's really frustrating. One kid even tried to hit me. Frankly, I've had it. Well, if you don't like working in a library anymore, Marcia, you can always go and slice salami at a supermarket. And bologna too. Of course, my cats keep me sane, especially Misty from Brooklyn. Misty from Brooklyn, that Chris and I found her outside the restaurant. Of course, Chris Capriello, who always called me, and he just called me and said that lovely word, I love you, Cammy. Come back to Brooklyn. Days have passed, months too. March, we celebrated Women's Month. Well, it's April. I think it is almost April. Everything considered, I'm getting used to working at the New Pastures Public Library. I work hard there until 9 at times, Saturdays, Sundays. American libraries are always open. Though tired, stressed, there's more positive than negative. Patrons in general are appreciative of the work we do for them, the information we get them. The staff is great, and we do give so many programs for all ages and tastes. The Friends of the New Pastures Library help a lot, inviting authors, especially locals. Even they busy with many special projects. I help out with many, especially the poetry meetings. The last poetry reading, I was there. For Margaret, the older librarian, was sick again. I love being there though, with the poets and poetry lovers. I was impressed with one called Abu. Not only because he gave a lot of money to the library, but every time he read Abu Ben Adam. And then two medical doctors. One from India, I think he recited Tagore. And as for the Pakistan one, he in English he wrote his own poetry. In fact, I was very inspired, and at the end I got up and I read, of course, Keats' Ode to a Grecian Urn. Poetry once a week, the rest prose, but a happy prose, and with three boys from the high school that used to come well dressed and very serious. Once again, I said I would write everything that happened to me at the library, but I was too ambitious. I'm really just too tired. But the incidents of the Pippa passes and the 2-3 high school boys, members of this Pippa passes group, I'll write. When a bunch of loud-talking teenagers came hurrying towards me on the reference desk. I have seen these guys before, a mixed racial group, 3, 4 always together, but this time it seemed not as many. They used to talk with the other librarians, but I and me. This late Friday afternoon, they seemed to have something else, mischief in their eyes, and the way they dressed. In fact, 2 of them were really scantily dressed. "Hi," they said, together. "We need to write a report on Pippa, you know, Robert's girl. And we need, your help." They said it together. "Yeah, we need it bad. It's awesome. You see, we each have a different interpretation of Pippa." Oh, I was so happy to hear this. Just what I needed to get away from the hell of war. God bless these studious teenagers. Oh, who said the teenagers that weren't interested in poetry? They were lined up in front of my desk, eager to know about one of the literary characters I loved, especially the 2 who were not properly addressed in the library code. "What do you need to know about Pippa?" I asked. "Well, when Pippa passes, what does this mean? Is she dying? Or worse, maybe Robert wants her dead. to shut her up. Maybe like he had raped her. No, there's something like a code in this poem. My well thought out opinion is that she's like a mafia moll. She passes out drugs, and you know, like when you're high, all's right with the world. I couldn't believe it. Teenage geniuses of creativity. Master comics. I wanted to hear more. It came. No, listen to me. All of you are dead wrong. Pippa is like sick. My father is a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor, so I know. He takes his shirt off and he continues. Pippa has to pass kidney stones. When she does that, then all's right with the world. So who's right? They all said it together, well rehearsed. They kept on saying that they needed help, but at this point they began to laugh, and I too began to laugh louder than them, a kind of hysterical laughter, because of my experience in these days at the library, months at the library. The lively had not been all that great. The world had not been all that all right. I was still laughing softly now when Taylor, with his usual calm demeanor, came striding into the ref room. So, up to your old tricks again, eh? He said, smiling at them. Tricks? This is serious. We need like help from this reference librarian, the information specialist. This too, they said in unison. They're right, Taylor, I said, quickly starting to get up. This librarian will help them obtain the information they're looking for. I gingerly went over to them on the other side of the desk. Okay, now listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. I took a deep breath and told them that for the ultimate truth about Pippa, they'd have to go to Florence, Italy. Firenze. That's where you'll get all of your information regarding Pippa. That's where she lives. Hey guys, wait! You can't leave now. First you have to finish high school. Pass all the tests with honorem. And of course, get into college. Then you can leave for, like, Firenze in Tuscany. They repeated that word like so often, I just too had to say it. To like speak their kind of English. Cool. This too they said all together. Again the performance seemed well rehearsed. But right now you are going to leave the library quietly, ordered Taylor, pointing to the exit. And I believe it would be nice to thank this reference librarian for giving you the information you wanted. Thank you! They said it together once again, this time with a sincere smile and no mischief in their eyes. Happy Easter, since I spent it with my loving parents, plus mother and her anxious a bit with myself, because she noticed that I wasn't all that happy. But this is what she said. Parliamo in italiano. Not happy Chris's mother on May Day, on Mother's Day. She wanted me to become a mother. And of course Chris the father. It would be a big wedding at Capriello's. His mother would love for us to get married. She'd be so happy and would start planning a big wedding right away. The biggest wedding Capriello ever had since it was established in the early years of the 20th century. What a coincidence. I told them that that's when the Van Velde family donated the money to build the library where I now worked. A library in New Pastures, a restaurant in Brooklyn. Two families, two different cultures, two different human needs. The Brooklyn family probably didn't need a library because they probably couldn't read. Feel sorry for them. But not sorry enough to get Chris that yes, it would make me happy to have the biggest wedding at Capriello mine. Yes, this I told them. Here, a rebirth. Instead, I have to report of the death of Catherine Van Velde in the library where she was born. It happened this morning to a kind of woman I had never met before in all of my 29 years of life. A woman different from me, different class from mine, different ethnic background, different upbringing, different everything except books and a library. That we did have in common, and a war. His reaction to the death of her half-sister. She began to cry. Mary, I know you loved her. Love her? I never loved KBV. I hated her. What? Why, she was your relative. Weren't you always together in her beautiful home? She was my rich relative. I was the poor one in her beautiful home. Can't you understand that? Oh, well, yes. Maybe she looked down at you. She was arrogant, mean. Sometimes. She never looked down at me. That's the trouble. She was always nice. You see, Catherine didn't realize she was rich. But being rich meant to someone poor. She was naive all of her life. Day 44. A feeling of loss. Of myself, too. I just couldn't handle this. So I called Chris and I said to him, Chris, I think I'm losing myself. Help me. Could you come up to New Pastures and stay with me just for a while? I miss you. Cammy, I can't. I just can't leave Brooklyn. Cammy, come back to Brooklyn. I miss you too. His reaction to the death of Catherine Van Velde. We had a meeting, a very important meeting, all of the staff. This is what Susan said. Catherine was a very rich woman, and she left a huge sum of money, her house and all her possessions, to her beloved library. Not only was she a relative of mine, we grew up together, but we worked side by side at the library for many years. She as executive director, I as vice executive director. It is well known that we didn't always agree on what a library is all about. Dear KBV could not take change. Worse, her illness made her regress to the past. But she knew what my ideas were for the 21st century library. I hid nothing from her. So she did have a sense of humor, and she used to say at times, après moi le déluge. But I'll keep what she wanted for the New Pastures Public Library. And of course she did, it has to have changed. And the first thing I'm going to clean up the outside of the library. It is made of marble, but it's dirty. I was left the library badly in need of a complete and thorough makeover, in need of change in order to survive. I'm going to quote here from the great Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus, who said that he was given a Rome made of bricks and he left it made of marble. I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to doing exactly that, for the New Pastures Public Library, to what a library should be in the 21st century. All right, we did very well. We need more security guards, better office space for my dedicated staff. No rats scaring my librarians. Oh yes, we have to have a cafe to rival any one of those in the super bookstores. I'm going to contact Starbucks right away. And as for you, Camilla, you did very well. You did very well, but now I want you to stop your work on the French and Indian War. But why? KVV wants you to give the French and Indian War the attention it deserves, I said, almost crying. That's when Mary kicked my leg under the table and, leaning closer to me, murmured, "You want to keep your job?" This is what Susan answered. "Because KVV is dead and I'm the only executive director. Now, I know what's best for this library, Camilla. I'm going to put you in charge of another war. You do wars so well. The Second World War. You see, this year is going to be the 60th anniversary of D-Day. My beloved father fought in it, came back sick, died young, on account of his wounds. I want to commemorate him and others of the greatest generation. Get on it, Camilla. Book Broco. Start reading on the invasion of southern Sicily. One of my relatives was there too, and also with the proud 5th American Army when they entered Rome on June 5th, 1944. You should enjoy it, Camilla. You're Italian. Ms. Deliberate, you are going to become our military history reference librarian, a special category. Yes, yes, this library should have one.